Hey y'all, welcome to Pleiadian Point of View. I'm Peyton with Peyton Energetics, and I'm a Pleiadian channel and starseed coach. So in today's point of view, the Pleiadians wanted to talk to us a little bit about denial. Now, one of the things that we have heard from all of our spiritual teachers is how important it is for us to think positive, to only focus on what we want to create in the world, to stay happy all the time. But what can happen as a result of this messaging and this spiritual teaching is that we can slide into denial, into suppressing the negative. And this is a mistake that I made big time when I first went through my spiritual awakening, because I was listening to a teacher who was all about telling us that our thoughts manifest. And if you are thinking negative thoughts, you're creating negative things. So what I took away from that messaging was that I should never have a negative thought or feeling. So whenever one came up, I would squash it immediately. And what happened is I was the poster child for making the mistake the Pleiadians are talking about, where I suppressed everything. And what happens is it will just explode at the worst possible time, burning most of your life down. So we never want to be in denial or suppression. But this is a very common misunderstanding in the spiritual community, or a common misunderstanding of a core spiritual teaching is probably a better way to look at it. So the P's wanted to talk about this a little bit today to help us understand how we can avoid making this mistake. So don't do what I did. So according to the Pleiadians, it is absolutely vital that we allow ourselves to feel our negative emotions and to look at that dark side of ourselves. Because when we refuse to do that, we get into the territory of suppression, of denial. And when we are denying or suppressing something, and there's lots of ways that this can show up. For me, one of the terrible ways that I handle things is that whenever something negative came up, whether it was a negative emotion or a negative thought, I would start to talk positively over the top of it. Well, as you can imagine, this does about as much good as putting a Band-Aid over the check engine light in your car. It is not helpful. So some of the ways that we deal with this as humans is we avoid our negative emotions, or we distract ourselves from them. Another big one is we like to numb ourselves, right? With substances. So anytime we find ourselves sliding into this territory, we may be getting into the realm of denial or suppression. And the reason that we don't want to deny or suppress is that we then move that energy, whether it is a thought form, a belief, an emotion, we push it into our energy field where it gets stuck. And when this emotion or this belief gets stuck in our energy field, it starts to manifest. So especially if we continue this over time, like I did, and I don't recommend it, we start to get kind of what you can think of as a big rock in your energy field of frozen or stuck emotion, or a very solidified belief system. And what happens is that starts to create in your life. So if you are someone who always avoids anger because you just don't want to feel like an angry person, what can happen is you can get basically a knot of anger energy in your energy field that starts to then manifest. So you might start to notice over time that everyone seems to end up mad at you, or that you end up being around a lot of people who are very angry. And it might not make sense to you at the time what is causing this, because you may not feel like you're an angry person. So this is how suppression and denial kind of comes back to bite us, is we force it into our energy field where it gets stuck, it gets frozen, and then it just starts to create. So we want to avoid this. So according to the Pleiadians, the purpose of our emotions is to move through us. You've probably heard the expression that emotions are energy in motion. That is how they're supposed to function. So when they are functioning properly, our emotions come up. They give us valuable feedback that show us our belief systems and our judgments, but they're intended to be short term. They are not meant to be something that we stew in for hours. or days. So when our emotions come up, if we resist them, we force them into that energy field where they start to manifest. And they will continue to manifest throughout our life until we release them, until we free them up and get them moving again. So what the P's encourage us to do instead is to keep our emotions moving. And the way we do that is by letting ourselves feel our negative emotions, our negative thoughts. And this is what we sometimes talk about in the spiritual community as being willing to look at our shadow, right? Those parts of us that we feel badly about, those things that we judge that make us mad or that make us feel powerless. What we want to do is we want to look at those emotions as they come up, because emotions are really valuable sources of feedback. They give us data. They show us where we're holding on to beliefs that really don't serve us. So what the P's encourage us to do with our negative emotions is to be willing to feel them. Now, when they say this, they are not telling us that we should stew in anger for hours or days. That's not what they're saying. According to the guides, we only have to feel an emotion for about 45 seconds in order to process it, integrate it, and release it. So when that flash of anger comes up, when you start to feel a little grief or maybe a little powerless, rather than avoiding that or distracting yourself, which is so tempting, y'all. I mean, I fell into this habit so hard. But if you allow yourself to feel that emotion, the guides like to say you can only feel it as an emotion for about 45 seconds, and then it will automatically evaporate. Now, if you stay in that feeling longer, so say you see something on social media, on TV, and it makes you really mad, and you notice an hour later you're still angry about it, what has happened is you've slid into the mind about it. So if that emotion lasts longer than a minute, we've gotten into judgment. Right? We're starting to tell the story. And that's not a bad thing. All that means is we've gotten into the mind. So we're not in the emotion anymore. We're in a mental loop with it. So again, if you just focus on it as pure sensation, that's something the P's have been talking about a lot lately as a way to help us process, just some of the just really challenging emotions that are coming up for the collective right now. If you let yourself feel it as a sensation, it'll help you stay out of the mind with it. And all that means is it'll move through you that much faster. So that is what the P's wanted to share with us in this week's POV. Just a little help for navigating those kind of sticky emotions. So let me know in the comments below, how are you handling these energies? Drop that in the comment box. And while you're down there, don't forget, hit the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't done that yet. I'll see you next time. Bye.